everyone, welcome to History on Trial. This is Dr. Tracy McCarthy, psychologist, attorney, and educator. We are going to be quickly addressing some evidentiary issues related to the death of George Floyd. One of the things that we will be looking at is this issue of competence in terms of evidence, and we are looking at the trustworthiness of the evidence. And so there are some questions about some of the things that have been presented to the public that have been presented as evidence in this particular case. If this appears on anything other than Dr. Tracy McCarthy, it is stolen and unauthorized. Let's get started. People are making judgments related to this case based upon information presented through the media. And that information primarily comes from major news networks. And so we are going to look at what has been presented thus far. There are a couple of questions, again, related to some of the information that has been provided. One question right off the top involves these depictions that have been presented related to the person who is accused of killing George Floyd. Now, these are supposed to be depictions of a former police officer by the name of Derek Chauvin. And these pictures look like different people. There are similarities, however, there are also some differences in these depictions. One on the right is supposed to be a depiction of the individual at the scene of the crime, and then the other depiction is supposed to be a mugshot. Now, there has been a video that has been released from the Minneapolis Park Police Department, and this is distinguished from the Minneapolis Police Department. Now, this video footage is supposed to be released to demonstrate the vantage point of a park police officer. It's unclear why this video footage was released versus video footage from the body cams of the actual officers involved. We're going to quickly go over some evidentiary rules so that you can more critically consume evidence that is presented to you related to this case or any other case. When you are talking about legal evidence that is admissible, you're looking for evidence that is relevant, you're looking for evidence that is material, and you are looking for evidence that is competent. And so relevant evidence, it should have a tendency to assist with proving or disproving some fact in the case. And when evidence is material, it's going to be offered to prove a specific fact that is in dispute in the case. And then when you have competent evidence, which you definitely want to have, that evidence needs to be trustworthy. And so it needs to tend to prove or disprove a matter. And so you are looking for all three of these things. And one of the questions related to some of the evidence that has been provided revolves around the issue of relevance, materiality, and trustworthiness. And so one of the first questions that comes up is this issue of getting this footage from the Minneapolis Park Police Department versus the Minneapolis Police Department. First, I want to draw your attention to the date of the incident. And so what you have in the media is that this arrest allegedly occurred on May the 25th of 2020. And you see this across a number of reports. And so you have the arrest allegedly occurring on May the 25th, 2020. You have the death occurring on May 25th, 2020, according to media and police reports. And as with those depictions of Derek Chauvin, you have a number of depictions that have been presented related to George Floyd, and some of those depictions appear to be significantly inconsistent. One thing that is noteworthy is the date and time stamp on a number of these depictions that have been presented through news media. And so one of the things that you might note on this one is the date and time stamp, and you have some of the date and time stamp in what appears to be white, and then you have some of the date and time stamp in what appears to be black. And it's unclear why this discrepancy is going on with this date and time stamp for this video. This is coming from CBS Evening News. You have a number of news outlets reporting that they have received a release of new body cam footage from this particular arrest. Now, what is unclear is why this body cam footage has a date that is inconsistent with the date of the alleged arrest. And so on this body cam footage, and this is from the Sun, you will see this repeated. This is supposed to be from the Minneapolis Park Police Department. And this body cam footage has a number of oddities. One oddity is this date, and you can see the arrow pointing to the date. It identifies the date of arrest and death as 5/26/2020. Now, this would have been the day after the reported arrest occurred and the reported death occurred. You also have a number of redactions going on, and these redactions are shown as black boxes. And so this is concealing a number of things in the video footage. And so it's really unclear why this video footage was released, what it is supposed to demonstrate, particularly since it is dated a day after. And here is another piece of the video footage from the Sun. Again, it continues to have this purported body cam footage that has the 26th of May. And here you have the Telegraph indicating that they are releasing footage received from the Minneapolis Park Police Department. It says police have released new video from the day of George Floyd's arrest. Again, you see the 26th of May up in the right hand corner. And you also see an event that is taking place across the street from the other situation that is taking place. And so it's unclear why all of this is going on and why these individuals are involved in an incident on one side of the street and also on the other side of the street, and why you have footage coming from a police department that is inconsistent with the police department that was involved, according to reports, in the actual arrest. Here you have additional evidence presented from NBC News this time, and NBC notes that this is a heavily redacted piece of video. They indicate that the black bars have been added by the police department to block the identities of the people the officers are apprehending, and there's also missing audio at times from these videos. And so you see the black boxes again, you see the officers that were involved in the death of George Floyd that purportedly occurred on the other side of the street. And so it's unclear again what this video footage is supposed to show. Also, even though it's covered up at the top, this also has that same date of May the 26th versus May the 25th. And in this frame, you can actually see the date in the upper right hand corner, and you can see that it is the 26th, and this is for that NBC footage. Here you can see NBC is noting that officials and protesters are calling for transparency from the police department to release a non-redacted version of the video. What would be more helpful than a non-redacted version of the video from the Minneapolis Park Police Department would be actual body cam footage from the officers that were actually involved. Again, you see this heavy redacting, which means you don't know what you are looking at. It's impossible to know what is being presented here from the Tuesday after the death of George Floyd. The Telegraph is also presenting video footage from the same source. And again, you see this heavy redacting. You do see the officers who appear to be involved in the actual arrest and death of George Floyd that took place apparently on the other side of the street. And so again, you see this heavy redacting, so it's impossible to know who these officers were involved with, and also you see that date of 5/26 in the upper right hand corner. There's really very little you can do with this because it looks like it is not authentic with respect to being footage on the day of the actual arrest on the 25th of May. And then you see additional video footage presented by the Telegraph, again with the same date, and you see what's going on the other side of the street, and you see the police vehicles from both the Minneapolis Park Police Department and then the Minneapolis Police Department, along with an ambulance. Again, you see additional black box redacting going on with this particular clip, and this is also, again, the 26th of May. Now, in addition to these oddities related to the dates and also the oddities related to the actual depictions of the individuals involved in this case, you also have a number of symbols that are presented, and it's unclear the purpose of these symbols in terms of the provision of evidence in this case. And so you have the Triskelion symbol that is in the upper right hand corner of the videos that are dated May the 26th, 2020 instead of May the 25th, 2020. And you also have these oddities in terms of the depictions of George Floyd and Derek Chauvin. And finally, you have this odd inclusion of a depiction of George Floyd next to Corona. And so that is definitely something that is noteworthy, and it's unclear where all of these depictions are actually coming from. In the future, instead of simply depending on cell phone footage from bystanders and footage from body cams, it might be more helpful to have a different view in terms of crime scenes. And so there are some other resources out there that are used for purposes of surveillance. And so since those things are out there, it might be helpful to actually use those things in order to get more relevant material and competent evidence. Remember, knowledge is power. Take care and see you soon.